Hey gang, Kevin here, Life22, and well, I hear a bird cheeping outside my office. I can't determine what species of, what do they call it, ordination it is. A thunnel? Anyways, one of you guys can probably hear it on mic and tell me what it is. Um, some kind of a songbird. If that someone's going to go in there and be like, no, that's technically not a songbird. So, anyways, brief morning this morning. Just kind of a quick middle of the week hump day update. Obviously, we've got upcoming guests. I'm trying to shoot to get somebody on the show this Saturday. It may push off to the following. But the next guest we have on the show is actually scheduled in the books now. It is the mayoral candidate, Amy Sherburne, for May 2nd. So in the around 6:30 or 7. So by the time we get that up, it'll probably be about 9 or 10. By the time it's actually published online, it'll be on transistor.fm sooner, which then will distribute it out to all the different folks. We're working on getting a couple more. I've got to make some phone calls in regards to those. I'm trying to think, man, what do we have? There's a lot going on. There is the Common Council meeting last night. I heard was pretty spicy. I was not in attendance. Let me turn that down. There we go. I was not in attendance last night. I heard that it was. I heard that it got spicy. I heard that somebody was arrested, and I have yet to see the footage or watch the council meeting from last night. As soon as I do, it'll probably be tomorrow that I'll review another public comment of the Common Council. Oh, that's why. Okay. There, how's that? Yeah, okay. Yeah, another another issue with another Common Council public comment section gone awry last night. So as soon as I'll review that, I've got to listen to it first. I don't want to just go cold cocked based on what I heard on Facebook, and obviously they took the video footage down, so that's disheartening. But and then I know there's a couple other items on the agenda for our local municipality that are causing some consternation with people, like the mall project and things like that. I'd love to be touching on right now. So let's see here. Upcoming guests: Amy Sherburne, the Common Council meeting last night. Man, I had them all like rattling around in my head. I know I've gotten reached out by people. Oh man, your clip video. You really need to talk about plastic bags. And I'm like, oh my god. Um, which is funny because the reason I had the clip video was because that same person, because a person I spoke to, one of my buddies was like, I was bitching to him about clips, and that's how it started it. And then all of a sudden it was, um, it turned into a, hey, well, when you're bitching about clips, tell them to bring our plastic bags back too. And that may be a rant all in and of itself. I'm going to have to pick a morning when I have more time to bang out a podcast and do another 20-minute rant about plastic bags, and like a Netflix special when they originally came out. They had all the docuseries on Netflix where they were just boosting revenue, and they were like, how beer saved the world, and all these cool little ones would do like how plastic bags saved mankind or something. Pick a real satirical topic on it, but yerba mate. Let's see, just a ton of things going on in the world, right? So there's oh, maybe that's what I was going to touch on, and real brief too, because we're already 5 minutes in. So yeah, we have the upcoming guests. We have upcoming topics. Stay tuned. I'm still working on the real estate investment portfolio, like kind of like the current deal, which will be a Patreon list and release, and then there'll be some more educational stuff, which might be our Friday show, might be like Investment Fridays or something. Yeah, that'd probably be. I got to start putting things into the days of the week, so I'm not coming out here half cocked, and you're not into like, oh well, what is Kevin going to talk about this morning? Like, how good of a rant can it be? Well, yesterday was pretty good, and I was pretty sober, so. Sometimes people are like, "Oh, Friday night rants from Kevin. That's usually pretty spicy." But with not drinking, you get that same quality. So, I want to touch on national news. And national news is there's this big hullabaloo in the last week about Health Secretary RFK cutting snacks, things that are extreme high fructose corn syrup type beverages from SNAP, which is the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, which essentially is what used to be food stamps, right? It's but yeah, no, it's I don't know. I don't know what all the hullabaloo is. I hear that they're that the certain organizations are paying right-wing influencers to join the cause to save soda, sugary drinks, and things like that to have them paid for by our tax dollars, which pay for them for low-income families that can't afford food. Which I was talking with somebody the other day about the topic of social programs. And it's like I don't have an issue with social programs here and there. It's a guy got unemployment. Like there's a social program, right, that employers pay into. I mean, it sucks that you fire somebody even for good cause, and they still have in certain states the right to claim against that employer. Like, well, they're guaranteeing me a job. Like even when you stole from them, there's I hear you hear these stories all the time. It's like, well, and if you talk to people that are that pay that are work for unemployment or things, oh, we don't do that. We don't do that. No, and it's like. No, but somebody can file a claim against you, and then you actually have to go to court. And sometimes going to court is more money than what the increase in your unemployment is going to be. So it's like, why would you? And then you should bring a lawyer to these court proceedings. It's like, how much does a lawyer cost you? And it's like, so in order to fight one of these proceedings, you have all this stuff, unless it's really cut and dry. And it's just, it's nonsense. But it just goes into gaming the system. Like there's a large percentage of people who can work or don't work, and they just choose not to, and because the government can satiate them with free food and health insurance and cash assistance and paying their rent and all these other things. And it's not like, hey, Kevin's just making up some talking point. It's like it's things that I see. It's things that I see as a landlord. Like I don't know if maybe I have better insight to it, because you just see thousands of people a month trying to interview and look for an apartment. And it's like, in the years that I've been doing, so not thousands of people a month, but at least 10 people a month call me and then tell me that they're on these programs. And, so it's like, wow, there's just a lot of people. And it's not like the same people are calling me over. It's not like every member of a 6-person household is calling you. I'm going on a rant about social programs, but I understand it, man. You lose your job for non-legitimate reasons, right? Like they just phased out your side. You want to you need to support your family. I get it. You go 6 months looking for a different job, right? Because it can take 6 months to find a job. Same way it can take 6 months or more to find an apartment or housing. So I understand it, because I mean. But at the end of the day, hey, your 6 months is running out. I guess you're working at McDonald's and Burger King, or you're picking up extra shifts. You know what I mean? That's what you have to do. And then you do that for a year until you find a job back in, whatever, HR, marketing, advertisement, plumbing, whatever. Until there's an opening, you might have to do something really crummy. And before that, you had to go on the social program, which would have been like unemployment. And unemployment doesn't always pay the bills, so maybe you got subsidized with food stamps, and maybe you got subsidized with Medicaid or what have you. I'm not opposed to that for that scenario, which is what it was intended for, which is should be 95% of it. because you can't expect everything to go without corruption. The problem is that the corruption is not just 5%. It is a huge portion. And so it it's just one of those things. It's one of those things that they even talk about as bankrupting the company, like, or the country. And you want to, we need to fix the deficit. We need to fix this. Well, it's like the biggest part of the federal budget and the state budgets. It's like one of the biggest part is social programs. And it's like, and everyone goes, well, I'll go in there and I won't cut social programs. It's like, okay, well, then you're not going to really address the problem. The problem is that, like, it's growing out of control and everybody wants us to be a socialistic state. And it was like, we were founded on this country that we're not going to be, so we are a democracy. We are capitalistic, and we're not going to do any port of utopia, communist, socialist nonsense. And that was it. Like, we found it. It was like, hey, this is it. It's like, I'm starting a Catholic church, and then all of a sudden a bunch of people come in and be like, well, it's a democracy, though, and we're all Jewish, so we're going to be a temple now. It's like, well, then you're not the same thing that you just were. Like, it's not just like an evolution, it's an overhaul, and that's completely different. And then people don't seem to get that. People don't seem to get that. Like, you exist in this form. You have the right to do whatever you want in this form, but as soon as you change from that form, you're not that thing anymore. You're not that thing. And, like, the Federalist Papers said, like, at which point you should be like, dissolving. Like, you are not this thing. You're not the United States of America. You won't be that. You can't be that. Like, they talk about a lot of that stuff in there, and it's like, and then there's some of the founding fathers that, like, you read their stuff like 6 or 7 times, and you're like, I now get what he's saying, because they spelled it out and they talked about it, and you have to hear, like, what they're saying, and it's different. Like, sometimes, because you're putting it in today's context too. So it's like, oh, well, he meant this. It's like, did he? Oh, he expressly talked about computers, did he? Yeah, he expressly talked about social media, the internet. Like, so sometimes you have to, like, take you know what I mean, and then reinterpret it. I don't know. It gives me a headache. But anyways, that's enough on social programs. I really just wanted to talk about the issue. Like, it should be a non-issue. And I don't know why people that are, like, libertarian and right wing are, like, being like, oh, we got to keep people's free choice of soda pop with their food stamp purchases. It's like, no one's banning food, soda pop, which I think it's garbage. I don't drink, so, like, I'll drink a soda maybe once or twice a year. Like, it's more of it's a treat, which is what it is. It's not supposed to be a daily occurrence. It's supposed to be like, man, I did really good today. I sold something. I made a little extra, like, little bonus in whatever it is that I'm doing. Like, right, like, maybe you're a sales guy and you just, like, you sold a car, and every time you sell a car, you drink a soda. Like, it's supposed to be like ice cream. You don't have it every night for dinner. You're supposed to have it like it's a treat. Treats are not every night for dinner, because then otherwise it just becomes another meal, right? Like, oh, if dessert is every night, then every night we have dessert. So now we have 4 meals a day. Like, it's just not. Like, unless you did anything amazing that day, there's no reason you should be treating yourself. Like, you treat yourself when you do something good. It's part of rewards and whatever. But I think if you can't afford food, I don't think that buying people sugary drinks, which is not food, people, oh, it's food, it's high fructose corn syrup. It's like, well, I mean, then you're getting down to the argument of, like, is corn syrup really food? Like, because not really. I mean, I recommend you read Dr. Stephen Gundry's books. Like, humans didn't evolve to eat corn in the first place. Like, corn is something people started eating, and it's not really part of the human diet, and it causes a whole bunch of health issues. And it's like if you just eat tree bark all day, it's like, oh yeah, but I can eat it. It's like, yeah, just because you can eat that and chicken bones does not mean that is human food. Like, I can eat rocks. It's not human food. Like, like, there's things that chicken bones is like chicken because they share DNA. It's like, oh yeah, but that part of the chicken is not human food. Like, oh, well, corn is a vegetable, so it must be edible. Like, no, because there's, like, it's like the pufferfish. Like, is it the pufferfish? What is that? Yeah, I think it's the pufferfish. Whatever that one is, where, like, the Japanese guy has to, like, cut out the gland, and it's like a real delicacy. They have to cut out the poison gland, because if you, like, even just get one little, like, bit of that neurotoxin, like, it'll paralyze you for life. It's like, yeah, like, that neurotoxin, even though it is part of the fish, is not, and it probably shares DNA with the fish, in some regard, but it's not food. So to say that like fructose corn syrup is food because it exists as a vegetable, right? Like, well, yeah, but grain is in the same category as grass, and grass is not human food. So, and nor should grain be either. Just pointing that out there. I'm not like super health nut guy. Like, I'm starting to go down that path, but it's like that's starting. Like the last 5 years, I've been doing tons of research, and none of this stuff is food. So to say like, oh, if 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 people are like if they need to be on a social program and they need food stamps to feed their family, I don't think buying them candy bars, like, or sugary drinks or bags of chips, like, it's like, hey, okay, in a $200 grocery order for their family of four, they bought a bag of chips, but it's like people are buying cases. 10%. I heard the statistic this morning. 10% of food stamps is going towards sugary drinks, and another 10% is going towards snacks and snack type foods. So it's like that's 20%. That's 20%. You shouldn't even be that. It shouldn't even be that high. It should be like 1%. People are being inundated like, well, I'm entitled to this. It's like, no, you're not. This is a if you cannot afford to feed your family program. Like, if you don't have enough money to buy your food on your own, and we have to give you that money, then like, and everyone's gonna be like, oh, Kevin's a jerk. It's like, well, it's I'm not trying to be a jerk, but it's like you have a soup kitchen and then you get one family that just goes back for seconds and thirds like they're entitled for as much as they want. Like, no, if a church is putting on a food bank and you're hungry, like, come get a meal, a meal. And it's like, if there's extra at the end and it's gonna go bad, it's like, okay, guys, some of you, like, come on, take some with you. But it's like, but when you've like, it's just, it's I don't know, it's just, I feel like it's abuse, and you just gotta, like, you can't like, well, we're gonna give you something and then we can never yell at you for it. It's like, no, that's not. No, there's rules to everything, and if the rules aren't followed, you can't just, well, that would be mean if we didn't enforce them. It's like, well, it doesn't matter. Like, if the rule's not being followed, you need a swift, steady hand to guide people properly. That's how punishment works. I mean, like, people also should, like, like, if you're that guy who lost his job and you're down for 6 months and you have to be on a social program, like, yeah, you should feel a little guilty. Like, yeah, you didn't want to be. You should be a little ashamed, right? Like, you're a man. You're a provider for your family. You should be like supporting your family on your own, pulling yourself up by your bootstraps, with your own 2 feet. You should be supporting in your own 2 hands. You should be supporting your family, and not relying on the government. That's the goal. So if you didn't feel any shame, what's your incentive to not do that permanently and full time, right? Like, I don't understand what people's issue is. So, but if you can't feed your family, like, we shouldn't be like, oh, hey, here, buy them soda. Well, because soda has no nutritional value. I'm sure somebody in the comments would be like, it's got vitamin B, bro. Like, okay, yeah, soda's rat poison. I read this statistic in a book, and it was like, it was one of Dr. Stephen Gundry's book, and he's like, yeah, he's like, you can eat rocks. They contain a lot of minerals, but the problem is you have no way of digesting them and pulling them out of the rock. One of the biggest sources of vitamin B on the planet is rat poison, but we don't eat rat poison for vitamin B, right? So there's like, it's just like most everything about that is unhealthy, toxic nonsense, and I don't know why we're pushing it. I don't think that it should exist in like supermarkets. Like, if you want to go to a store to buy one, like, it should be a convenience item and not put with the food. It should be like, oh yeah, here's toilet paper. Oh yeah, and then here's chips and soda, which they usually put chips and soda in the same category, in the same aisle, all by their lonesome before frozen foods, because it's kind of like toilet paper. It's like something that you shouldn't eat. You can, but it's a convenience item because you're at a grocery store, and like, you should also be able to buy a pack of smokes when you leave the grocery store, even though that's not food either. It is a satiating vice. So, I don't know how much more I can say about soda pop, but just, there should be limits on what food stamps are. Like, there should be limits to like basic necessities, because that's what it is. It's a basic necessity. unless you talk about the unspoken part of the room, or the unspoken part in the room. No one's saying this, and like people want to make everybody's food be provided for by food stamps. At which point, if everybody was getting food stamps across the country, then yes, I would say like okay. And I still wouldn't be supporting them to even allow you to buy that. Like, 'cause you can't buy toilet paper with it, and it's just as nutritional as toilet paper. So I don't. But that's the thing that there's like a whole bunch of people on the left that want to push, like, oh, no, everyone's health insurance should be covered by the government, and everybody's food should be purchased by the government. It's like the social programs to the extreme. And there's a lot of people that, like, they just want that to happen. And it's like, I, I don't, and they don't talk about it openly. And so it's one of those, like, I mean, that's really what they're getting at. Well, you don't like free choice. It's like, well, then you're under the assumption that we're all going to get it. And it's like, we're not. There's some of us up here that are, supporting our family with our own two hands, and and we think that's a great thing, and then we think that everybody should do it. It's how the country was founded. That's like Anglo-Christian, Judeo-Christian values right there. Like that's so yeah. It's just nonsense. Give the kids vegetables. Get them some meats. Get them some fishes. Let them buy some bread, even though I think bread falls in the same category. I think bread and carbohydrates and then some other people out there will make the argument, well, ketchup has like a ton of sugar in it. It's like, okay, well, I mean, you're not like buying your kid a bottle of ketchup to drink. Like, it's a topping. It's like put it on your hot dog. Like kids get some hot dogs. You know what I mean? Hot dogs ain't gonna kill them. And if you also can't be like, you can't really get a bit picky when somebody else is buying your food. Well, I go to the store and purchase my own food with the food stamps. Like, okay, well, it's not your money, though. It's not your money. There's strings attached when you use other people's money. You used to not be, like, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you used to not be able to buy this stuff with food stamps. So I don't know what the big deal is. And that's where you get people like out in the parking lot, like, I'll buy you this food for 50 cents on the dollar. Like, it happens. It happens at a lot of grocery stores. I see it happen. To this day, you can go to Walmart and usually you'll see somebody like buying somebody else's food. It's dumb. There's been news reports of people in our area doing it and they get arrested. And it's just, I mean, at least they're cracking down on it. Like, whoa, if you arrest somebody, that's super mean, man. Like, well, yeah, because they're breaking the rule. They're breaking the rule. We're giving them money for them to feed their family. If they choose not to feed their family and trade it to somebody else who doesn't deserve it, we're not like, you can't find some way to turn it into cash and then go buy smokes and meth and whatever else you want to buy with it and not feed your family. Like, because now you're just duping the system, and that is fraud. And so, like, I think when we say go buy some food and you go buy toilet paper or soda pop that mimics toilet paper, and it should just get dumped right in the toilet. And then it's nonsense. I think that should be considered fraud too, because we gave you money for food and you didn't buy food with it. So I bought birthday cake. Like, yeah, man, if you bought like a birthday cake, like your family four times a year, a birthday cake gets purchased on your food stamp card. I don't think that's a big deal. But then again, like, why do you have food stamps all year round? Like, just throwing it out there. Like, it should be that like one-off thing. And there are people, and I did talk about this the other day too. There are people like we have some mentally handicapped people in our community that just like, some of them just wander around. They're like household names, like the Crumb brother. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing wrong with them. Like they go and they work, they mow lawns, whatever. Or like there's one of them. Everybody knows Larry. Larry volunteers or works for, Meals on Wheels and stuff, and he, and so there are people like that are just like stuck in a, like, they can go to work, the type of work they do is not going to pay all the bills, and so they get an Obama phone, they get their housing paid for, they get some food stamps, they get some Medicaid, like, you know what I mean, like those types of people. I'm cool with them being like permanent because they have something permanently, an issue with them that prevents them from going out and doing what it is that they need to do, because either they have medical issues or whatever. And like, there are some legitimate cases, and I'm not saying that there aren't going to be those full-time recipients of these types of programs, but It's like for most people, it was just supposed to be. It was supposed to be, and that's the issue. Is like when anybody at a federal level or a state level pushes a program, it's like, oh yeah, no, it's gonna do this, and then it's gonna sunset. And it's like, okay, well, we have the program in writing, and we have the sunset in writing, and then nobody lets it sunset. It's like, oh, but it's always been around. Like, well, yeah, but it was supposed to sunset. It's gonna last for 50 years, and it doesn't matter how much you love it. It doesn't matter how great it's working. It could be the best thing in the world, and if we have a thing in there that says it's gonna sunset, and there's nothing you can do about it, then there's nothing you can do about it. And that's what I always hated about these things. They're like, well, we'll pass it, but it's gonna only be for 3 years as a trial. And the problem with this trial is we're going to put it in writing, in law, that it's just going to sunset. And then, like, nobody sunsets it. And it's like, what are you doing? Social Security, I believe, I have to do some research on that one. I believe people talked about that being a sunsetted program. It was in all the other social programs. It was supposed to be something to, like, just help you into retirement, and then they were supposed to change. And we'll get into Social Security on a different day. Because Social Security is a whole animal in and of itself that needs to be reformed and needs to be addressed or needs to be abolished, and people don't want to hear it. But yeah, it definitely needs to be reformed. People are like, oh, I paid into it. Like, okay. Yeah, I pay into the government every year and they don't do shit. Let that sink in. So, all right, gang. It's been 26 minutes of Kevin's rant on Sody Pop food stamps. So we'll catch you guys next time. Life22. See you on the other side.